on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here. Chris Pratt as the Batman, Emma Watson as Supergirl, and the Shazam marketing has started. How are we all doing? Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. How would you handle and react to Chris Pratt being announced as Bruce Wayne, aka the Batman? Is it something you want to see? Now, a lot of people, look, this would split the fandom. He's from the MCU. That's one of the reasons it would amuse me if it happened, because it would upset a lot of Marvel fans. Because let's get this straight, people. That original cast of Guardians of the Galaxy are loyal to James Gunn. They're never going back to a Guardians 3. Feige would need to, bring in a new cast for that. So whatever your hopes and dreams about that, it's not happening. But I believe that Chris Pratt is a great guy. He's a great actor. A lot of crap coming out about him, religious stuff and crap like that. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested about his job and what he does in front of the camera. I think he will be a great Batman, a great Bruce Wayne. Now, Chris started in comedy, so if he was cast, people would try and assume that this is going to be a funnier, lighter Batman. No, Chris is multi-talented. He could take this task. It will be amazing. Now, I know this rumour started off because a lot of fans apparently want this to happen. Chris cast as Batman. I think it could work. I think it could be amazing. Of course, when one actor replaces the other, some people say, well, you're never going to live up to what Ben Affleck did. But I think Chris Pratt is so popular. This will be amazing for the DCEU. And of course, Chris Pratt is really good friends with James Gunn. James Gunn is working with the Suicide Squad now. He's developing that movie. So that's very exciting and very, very interesting. So yes, for me, it's a thumbs up if Chris Pratt was the Batman. But, of course, we don't even know if Matt Reeves is looking at him. All we know is some fans have been tweeting about this and really desperate to see Chris cast as Bruce Wayne and Batman. So for me, it's not a trigger. It's not a problem. It will be very, very, very exciting. Now, there's a lot of artwork out there that kind of envisions Emma Watson as Supergirl. Again, this would be pretty awesome. Now, I don't agree with her, the way she comes out and, keeps on talking about feminism and stuff like that, because I have a lot of respect for the proper pioneers of feminism. So when modern day women and girls come out and just think by saying that they're feminists, I find it an insult to what those great women achieved and what they sacrificed themselves for. So that aspect of Emma Watson doesn't really thrill me. And of course, we don't want a Brie Larson situation over at the DCEU. But what I think is that Emma Watson is a really good actor. She's got a lot of fans from the Harry Potter franchise. It would work. She's worked with Warner Brothers. She grew up working with Warner Brothers. J.K. Rowling could have a great influence here. So, absolutely, Emma Watson as Supergirl, again, just like Chris Pratt, would be awesome. I have no issue her as an actor and as a talented actor. That would really work. And I think this would really, really excite fans, because seeing how bad the TV show is, and the TV show Supergirl, which had a lot of potential, is very, very bad. Very bad. There's no question of how awful that television show is. I mean, this season has become about Alex and Kara's relationship. That's boring. She's a superhero. We want to see her being awesome. So, unfortunately, that show is an embarrassment to the character of Supergirl. The trailer you're watching behind me, which is of the 1984 Supergirl, now that's a great live-action Supergirl. It was a flop, but it was for me, it was a great film, and I always go back to that film and enjoy it. Was it perfect? Is anything perfect? No. Things don't have to be perfect. Actually, things are more, look at her. She was amazing, wasn't she? But, things are more fun when they're flawed, for me, because you can go back and, as a creative, as a director, I can think, well, I would have done this, that. But, of course, don't forget, 1984 was different because superheroes weren't fashionable. In fact, female leads, unfortunately, regrettably, weren't fashionable, and that's a ridiculous thing. So people probably didn't go out to see that film because they were used to watching male-led films, which is a tragedy and a crime in itself, isn't it? But Emma Watson as Supergirl would be awesome. Now to the coup de grace, the main meal, the main event of this video. The Shazam marketing has started and it's absolutely beautiful. They've just released a promo, showing us clips and stuff we've seen before, interrupted with interviews from Zachary Levi, the director David F. Sandberg, the other younger actors, and the enthusiasm in these actors and this director in this promo is beautiful. I think this film is going to make a hell of a lot of money. Zach talks about other superheroes maybe not wanting to be superheroes, where they have to save the world, but maybe it's a case of having to, and they'd rather just be ordinary people. But Shazam, this young man wants to be a hero, desperate to be a hero, and his friend is obsessed with superheroes. Now, his friend is kind of his mentor as well, if you like. So it's a really exciting dynamic. So this is for everyone who's still young at heart, this film. This film is everyone who's still a kid at heart. This is so exciting because the positivity coming from, David F. Sandberg as a creative, from the actors, is a stark contrast from what we're getting from, Brie Larson over at the MCU with Captain Marvel. I mean, the hate train for that is poisonous. And I don't really want to involve myself even in kind of threads with that anymore because it's reached a level. It's reached an ugly level. It's reached an ugly level because the lead actor didn't understand. Disney didn't understand her, coming with the forefront of her politics. Because for me, racism in any shape or form is wrong and ugly. And Brie Larson has showed racism. She has spoken about white men constantly and not in a very flattering fashion. And when you do that, it will be no different to me starting, talking negatively about and saying, hey, black men. It would be wrong. And it's wrong what she's doing. And, as I say, racism in any shape or form is wrong. And unfortunately, Brie Larson is coming across as a racist. So that's ugly. So we've got the real Captain Marvel, who is Shazam, who only had to change his name because of a legal battle, basically. So we've got a film here that is exciting and fun, less serious than the other DCEU films. As I say, this is a typical film for the mainstream audience. We're going to get the darker films. You're going to get the Joker, which isn't part of the DCEU, but it's still a DC film. We are interested in it as DC fans. So it's going to be very, very exciting what this film's like. I mean, the test screening was very, very interesting. I think we all came out of that test screening going, wow, I'm shocked at that. That's how good we thought it was. And, there was so many things missing from it. It wasn't a proper cut. You could tell that. But what you could see is the heart of the film. We're talking about a young man who's been in foster care, who has felt he's never belonged before. And then he's introduced to this young disabled boy, and he's found his family. He's found his place in the world. Then he becomes Shazam. So it really is a beautiful story. And I've always liked Shazam. I like what it does. And I think what David F. Sandberg has done with this film has given it heart. The same kind of heart that Richard Donner gave Superman the movie. And I just think this film, I wasn't convinced at first this film could reach $1 billion. The more I hear David talk about it, the more I see Zach Levi come out and talk, and the young lads playing the younger roles as well. I think this film is tailor-made to be one of the most successful CBMs of all time because it ticks all those boxes. This is the type of film that Warner Brothers want to make. Now, I'm not telling you that every DCEU CBM should be light, fluffy and funny, but they do have their place in this universe, just like the darker films have. And this is what you're going to see from Walter Hamada. Variety. There's been a lot of discussion about tonal balances and tonal shifts since the MCU started and since the DCEU started. The DCEU has been labelled as too dark, and the MCU has been labelled as this kind of franchise that is very light, very generic. Well, what you're going to see from Walter Hamada's DCEU is a variety in tone. Because just because you're all in the same universe, it doesn't mean you have to have the same tone. Because don't forget, Superman is a universe within a universe. Batman is a universe within a universe. So they should all have their varied tones. You can't have a dark Shazam and a brooding Shazam. Shazam does have to be bright. does have to be pure-hearted, and it works in this piece. So this is what I'm talking about, a variety of tones. And what this will do is, it will bring a variety of audience, a variety of consumers to watch the DCEU. And this is why I believe Underwater Hamada, the DCEU, has a really bright future. But what do you think? Do you think a varied of movie tones in an IP, in a franchise, can work? Well, it works within the comics. Of course, the comics are very different to the actual films. But I think it's right that we do have varied tones. And I do believe in what I'm saying, that DC and even Marvel are universes within universes. But it's very different with DC because there are actually so many different genres in DC Comics. There is fun, there is comedy, there is horror, there is adventure. It's all there. And if you can convince the audience that you don't have to have the same tone in every film because it's a universe within a universe, I think Walter Hamada could create a very special franchise.